Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting. A story that proves how even the most ordinary looking pocket change can turn into a life changing treasure. And today's spotlight is on the 1991 D quarter dollar, a coin that has shocked the numismatic world by reaching values as high as $11 million because of its incredible combination of minting mistakes, rare striking errors, and anomalies that have turned what should have been just another Denver Mint circulation piece into one of the rarest and most desirable coins of all time. And as we take this journey together, you'll learn how small details, overlooked flaws, and one-in-a-billion production accidents have turned a 25-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. So let's settle in and explore all the mysteries behind this coin. Because the tale of the 1991 D quarter isn't just about one coin, but about how numismatics brings history, technology, and luck together in ways that can change lives forever. So imagine yourself back in 1991 when the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of quarters for circulation, most of them ordinary Washington quarters made of copper-nickel clad composition with the familiar George Washington portrait on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse. Nothing special to the naked eye. And yet, within this massive production, a handful of coins emerged with characteristics so bizarre, so out of the ordinary, that they could not be ignored, and collectors who later discovered them realized they were holding on to numismatic gold mines, because the 1991 D quarter in question carries not just one, but multiple types of mistakes layered on top of each other, each mistake compounding its rarity, each anomaly adding to the mystique. And together they created a coin so desirable that at auction it shattered expectations by fetching millions, leaving even seasoned experts stunned at how something so small could hold such astronomical value. And when we talk about the kinds of errors that make a coin like this worth $11 million, we're not talking about minor scratches or post-mint damage, but genuine mint-born mistakes, like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, double dies where the lettering or portrait shows signs of duplication because the die shifted during the engraving process, planchet errors where the blank metal disc itself wasn't what it should have been, sometimes involving wrong metals such as being struck on a foreign coin blank or even a leftover silver planchet from earlier years. And in the case of the 1991 D quarter, these errors combine in jaw-dropping fashion. For instance, collectors have reported examples where the obverse shows doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust, while Washington's profile looks shadowed as though a ghostly image is layered on top of the main one, giving it an unmistakable double die obverse appearance, and at the same time the reverse eagle design appears misaligned, shifted slightly off-center so that part of the rim lettering is weak or missing altogether. And then, there are even rarer instances where the coin appears to have been struck on a planchet not meant for a quarter at all, possibly a foreign coin blank or a leftover transitional piece, which makes the weight and metallic composition stand out from ordinary 1991 quarters. And this kind of mistake is incredibly rare because the mint usually caught such mishaps. But every now and then one slipped through the cracks, and when collectors find these oddballs decades later, they become sensational discoveries. And to make it even more dramatic, some examples of the 1991 D era quarters show dramatic die cracks, raised lines that snake across Washington's head or the eagle's wings like lightning bolts, which not only add character, but also serve as undeniable proof that the coin was born with these flaws and not tampered with after leaving the mint. And when you think about how many millions of coins were produced that year, the odds of all these errors converging in a single coin are beyond astronomical, which is exactly why collectors and wealthy investors alike are willing to pay millions to own one, because it isn't just about owning a coin. It's about owning an irreplaceable piece of history, and the market for era coins has exploded in recent decades, driven by the idea that something as small as a quarter can carry a story, a mystery, and a legacy that no other collectible can match. And the 1991 $11 million quarter is the perfect example, because while most people would pass it over in their change, the trained eye of a numismatist sees the doubled letters, the shifted strike, the unusual weight, and instantly knows this isn't just pocket change, it's a once-in-a-lifetime find. And let's not forget the psychological thrill of error coins, because collectors are drawn to them not just for their rarity, but for the fact that they represent the imperfections of human and machine, little accidents in a system designed for perfection, and those imperfections become treasures precisely because they're not supposed to exist. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity equals value. And when you stack rarity upon rarity, the value skyrockets, which is exactly how a quarter with a face value of 25 cents climbs to an auction price of $11 million. And think about what that means. Someone found a coin worth more than a mansion, more than a luxury car collection, more than many people will earn in a lifetime, all in a piece of change that most of us would use to feed a parking meter. And that is what makes coin collecting so thrilling, the idea that at any moment, in any transaction, you might hold something extraordinary without even realizing it. And with the 1991 D quarter, we see how every possibility, misaligned dies, double strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, even partial collars where the rim design doesn't form correctly, all these errors not only make the coin fascinating to study but also priceless to own. And the stories surrounding these discoveries are just as exciting as the coins themselves, with collectors recounting tales of finding rare error quarters in pocket change, in bank rolls, or inherited collections turning small discoveries into big paydays. And every time another 1991 D error coin surfaces, the legend grows, fueling demand and pushing values higher. And the mystique of the $11 million sale cements this coin as one of the most famous modern rarities, comparable in fame to historic classics like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Nickel, because it represents the same core truth: rarity, story, and demand converge to create staggering value. And while skeptics might wonder how anyone could pay so much for a quarter, the truth is that in the numismatic market money follows passion, and passionate collectors will always chase the coins that excite their imagination. And with the 1991 D quarter, the imagination runs wild because every aspect of it defies expectation, from its humble origins at the Denver Mint to its extraordinary rise in the auction world. And as long as people treasure rarity and history, coins like this will continue to break records and inspire dreamers everywhere to check their change, because who knows, the next $11 million coin might be sitting right in your pocket as we speak, waiting to be discovered. And that is why the 1991 D quarter dollar, with its wild errors and minting mistakes, has become a legend worth more than nearly anyone could have imagined. Next, 1974 quarter dollar coin. Today, as we take a fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, extraordinary minting mistakes, and unbelievable auction values, because today we are diving deep into the story of the 1974 quarter dollar that has stunned collectors and investors alike by reaching a mind-blowing value of $6 million. A coin that looks like any ordinary pocket change at first glance but hides within its details the kind of errors, mistakes, and anomalies that transform a simple 25-cent piece into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure worth millions. And in this video, we are going to break down how such a coin can even exist, what types of mistakes and minting flaws could have made it so rare, why collectors go crazy for it, and what possibilities exist for finding one yourself in the vast ocean of coins still circulating. So sit back, and let's dive into the layers of history, error types, and numismatic intrigue that surround the 1974 quarter dollar, and explain why it is considered one of the most valuable pieces in American coinage history. Because when we talk about coin errors, it's not just about a single misstep in the minting process, but rather a complex chain of possibilities, including double dies where the image is struck more than once slightly off register, leaving a ghostly duplication in the lettering or design, off-center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the press, creating dramatic misalignments that collectors love, wrong planchet errors where a quarter might accidentally be struck on a nickel dime, or even a foreign coin blank creating a piece that shouldn't exist at all. Broad strikes where the collar that normally shapes the coin fails and allows the metal to expand outward, giving the coin an oversized look. Clipped planchets where the metal disc is punched out incorrectly, leaving crescent-shaped bites missing. Or the extremely rare transitional errors where the mint switched metals or designs and a few coins got struck with the wrong combination. And when it comes to the 1974 quarter, we have stories of wrong planchet strikes where a quarter design was accidentally impressed onto a 40% silver planchet left over from earlier coinage eras, making it not only valuable for the silver content, but astronomically valuable because such a minting mistake was never meant to happen. And collectors who specialize in error coins know that the law of supply and demand dictates value, meaning when something so unique and rare comes along, the demand skyrockets far beyond logic and drives the price into the millions, especially when provenance, grading, and authenticity confirm it is genuine. And let us not forget the role of grading companies like PCGS and NGC who verify these anomalies and encapsulate them with an assigned grade, because the higher the grade combined with the rarity of the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. And in the case of this 1974 quarter, part of its $6 million valuation comes from being in extraordinary condition, preserved perhaps unknowingly by someone who never realized what they had tucked away in a collection or jar until it surfaced to stun the collecting world. And what makes this story even more exciting is the fact that most people who handle quarters daily do not pay attention to the small details like doubling in letters, missing mint marks, variations in thickness of the rim, or differences in metal tone. Yet those small details could make the difference between 25 cents and millions of dollars. So imagine a coin minted in Philadelphia or Denver in 1974, carrying the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the bold eagle on the reverse, but upon closer inspection showing anomalies like doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty," a shifted mint mark, or being slightly off-center, and to an untrained eye it's just another quarter, but to the trained numismatist it is a jaw-dropping error that transforms it into a $6 million marvel. And when we talk about why errors occur, we need to understand the mass production process of the U.S. Mint, where billions of coins are struck each year under tremendous pressure and speed. And though the minting process is designed to eliminate mistakes, perfection at that scale is impossible. So every now and then a few errors slip through quality control unnoticed. And when those rare survivors make it into circulation, they become legends. And the 1974 quarter is one of those legends, creating endless fascination about how many more might exist undiscovered, sitting in coin jars, bank rolls, or hidden away in estates, waiting for sharp-eyed collectors to stumble upon them. And beyond the physical errors themselves, part of what makes this coin worth $6 million is the mythology and excitement built around it in the numismatic community. Because collectors are driven not just by the metal or design, but by the story, the once-in-a-lifetime narrative that this is no ordinary coin, this is a miracle of chance, a survivor of mistake, a symbol of rarity, and ownership of such a coin isn't just a matter of investment, it's about prestige, history, and the thrill of holding something almost nobody else will ever have. And consider too the possibility of experimental strikes or test planchets being used in 1974, as the Mint often experimented with compositions to reduce costs, and a few test strikes might have accidentally left the facility, meaning a 1974 quarter could exist on a wrong metal mix, maybe a leftover silver alloy, maybe a foreign planchet, and that makes it even rarer, because it bridges the line between official production and unintended rarity. And when such coins surface, they rewrite what collectors thought they knew about the series, sparking bidding wars at auctions where millionaires and institutions compete for the chance to own what may be the only example known. And that competitive spirit among high-end collectors is another reason why the value of $6 million is achievable, because when two or more wealthy collectors want the same unique coin, the price can skyrocket far beyond estimates. And auction houses love to present such rarities with fanfare, knowing the buzz alone increases value. And when this 1974 quarter made headlines, it wasn't just about its metal or design, but about the mystique of error coins in general. Because they remind us that even in a system built for perfection, imperfection is what creates true uniqueness, and that uniqueness is what drives people to search through their change every day, hoping lightning will strike twice. And what makes this coin even more fascinating is the possibility that multiple error types could exist on a single piece, like a double die on a wrong planchet with an off-center strike, creating a cascade of mistakes that multiply the rarity exponentially. Because while one error might be rare, a combination of errors on the same coin makes it astronomically rare. And in the world of collecting, rarity equals value. And it's that formula that has turned the 1974 quarter into a $6 million sensation. And when you think about it, such a coin challenges our perception of money itself, because here we have a piece designed to represent 25 cents of spending power. Yet its imperfections have transformed it into an object worth $6 million, more than many luxury homes, more than exotic cars, more than what most people will earn in a lifetime, all because of mistakes that were supposed to be failures but instead became treasures. And that irony is part of what keeps coin collecting so engaging, because it's not about perfection, it's about the human element, the accidents, the unexpected twists in history, and the way those twists create objects of immense fascination. And when we look at the possibilities for collectors today, the lesson is simple: always pay attention to your change, because you never know if that worn coin in your pocket could be a hidden gem. And for the 1974 quarter, its story is a reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. So as you keep searching, learning, and collecting, keep in mind that treasures like this are still out there, waiting to be discovered, and the next $6 million coin might just be sitting in your hand right now without you even realizing it. And that's the beauty of numismatics, a world where a mistake can turn into magic, where history, chance, and rarity collide to create legends, like the 1974 quarter dollar worth $6 million.
Next, 1979 D quarter dollar USA coin. We are going to dive into the story of the 1979 D quarter dollar, a coin that at first glance looks just like the countless others that circulated heavily during the late 1970s and early 1980s, a coin most people would assume is worth exactly 25 cents and nothing more. But in certain rare cases, this particular coin with the Denver mint mark has been valued as high as $3 million because of the extraordinary errors and mistakes that occurred during the minting process. And our mission today is to explore in detail what kinds of errors make this coin so valuable, how such mistakes could happen at the United States Mint, why collectors are willing to pay millions for a single example, and the endless possibilities that make this one of the most intriguing and desirable rarities in all of numismatics. So to understand why the 1979 D quarter dollar is so special, we first need to step back and look at how coins are created, because the minting process is a complex system that involves multiple stages, and while the U.S. Mint strives for perfection, the sheer scale of production means that mistakes inevitably occur. So in 1979 the Mint was striking Washington quarters in massive numbers, billions of coins across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each made of a copper-nickel-clad composition consisting of an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between outer layers of copper and nickel, giving the coins a silvery appearance. And the Denver Mint alone struck hundreds of millions of quarters in that year, each bearing the D mint mark below the portrait of George Washington, designed originally by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. And with so many coins being struck at lightning speed, errors were bound to slip through the cracks. And it is these errors that turn an ordinary 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar treasure. So let's begin by exploring the types of errors that could make a 1979 D quarter dollar worth $3 million, starting with one of the most famous categories, double dies, which occur when the coin die itself receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub, creating a doubling effect on the design elements. And when this doubling is dramatic, especially on key features such as the date, mint mark, or inscriptions like Liberty and I in God We Trust, collectors go wild for them. And while double die quarters are less famous than double die sense, they are just as collectible when dramatic, and a bold double die from 1979D in pristine condition could easily soar into the $1 million range, and when combined with unique circumstances, it becomes possible for such a coin to hit $3 million at auction. Then we have off-center strikes, another popular error type, where the coin is not properly seated in the collar during striking, leading to a design that is partially missing or dramatically shifted, and the more off-center the strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the higher the value, with dramatic off-centers often selling for thousands, and an extreme but perfectly preserved 1979D off-center strike could command enormous premiums, especially if it is one of a kind. Next we must consider multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once in the press, producing overlapping images, and these can be some of the most visually stunning errors, with high collector demand, and in rare cases such multiple struck coins become famous auction pieces worth hundreds of thousands or even millions depending on condition. Then there are wrong planchet errors, some of the most dramatic and valuable of all, where a coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. And because the U.S. Mint in 1979 was producing coins not only for the United States but occasionally for foreign governments, planchets of various sizes and metals were moving through the minting facilities, so the possibility of a quarter being struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even a foreign blank cannot be ruled out, and such wrong planchet errors are among the most prized discoveries, sometimes worth tens of thousands, and if a unique 1979D quarter struck on a rare planchet surfaced, particularly in mint state condition, it could easily push into multi-million-dollar territory, and even more dramatic are mule errors, where dies from two different denominations are accidentally paired together, producing coins that should never exist, and these are among the rarest and most valuable mistakes in numismatic history, with some mules already selling for hundreds of thousands or more, so a mule involving a 1979D quarter would be a blockbuster discovery, potentially worth $3 million or even more, and let's not forget die breaks, cuds, and cracks, where flaws in the die cause raised lines or blobs of metal to appear on the coin, and while minor die cracks are common, dramatic die breaks that remove large portions of design or create unique shapes can be incredibly collectible, and when such a coin is preserved in high mint state, it could also fetch extraordinary sums. Now another key category involves struck-through errors, where foreign objects like cloth, wire, or grease become trapped between the die and planchet during striking, leaving behind unusual impressions or missing details, and dramatic struck-through errors are highly collectible, with some commanding very high prices, and in 1979D quarters, examples of grease-filled dies leading to missing letters or numbers are known, but the most dramatic of these could become million-dollar coins when combined with pristine preservation. And then we have broad strikes, when the collar die malfunctions and the coin expands beyond its normal diameter, producing unusual shapes that collectors love, and while not always as valuable as other errors, a dramatic broad strike from 1979D in flawless condition could still bring enormous premiums, and beyond all of these categories lies the importance of condition, because in numismatics the state of preservation is often just as important as the rarity of the error itself, so while a worn 1979D error quarter might bring hundreds or thousands, the same coin in mint state with full luster, sharp detail, and nowhere could multiply in value tenfold or even 100-fold, so the possibility of a unique error coin from 1979D surviving in mint state condition is exactly what drives values up into the millions, and when you add to that the cultural and historical context of the late 1970s, the story becomes even more compelling, because the 1970s were a period of economic turbulence in America, with inflation, energy crises, and shifting cultural landscapes, and coins from this era carry a nostalgic resonance for collectors today, especially those who grew up during that time and now have disposable income to spend on building world-class collections, and when such collectors compete for trophy coins like the 1979D era quarter, prices skyrocket, because it only takes two determined bidders to push a coin's value into the millions, and this phenomenon has been seen repeatedly at major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections, where rare errors and varieties often bring far more than expected simply because the competition is so intense, and once a coin sets a record, it cements its place in numismatic history, further increasing its value, so the 1979D quarter dollar worth $3 million is not just a coin, it is a symbol of the intersection of rarity, human error, collector psychology, and the fascinating unpredictability of the numismatic marketplace. And another factor is the possibility that such coins remain undiscovered, because with hundreds of millions of 1979D quarters struck, the odds are high that at least a few dramatic errors exist but have not yet been found, which fuels the treasure-hunting spirit of the hobby, with collectors searching rolls, bags, and even pocket change in hopes of stumbling upon a life-changing rarity. and countless stories exist of ordinary people discovering extraordinary coins, from double die cents in circulation to off-metal strikes hidden in collections, proving that such miracles do happen, and the idea that a $3 million quarter could still be hiding somewhere only adds to the excitement, inspiring people to look closely at every coin, because you never know when lightning will strike. And when we step back and view the bigger picture, the Washington Quarter Series itself is one of the most popular U.S. coin series, having been in continuous production since 1932, and collectors love completing date and mint mark sets, so in one year like 1979D has a legendary rarity.
Next, 1994D quarter dollar US coin. Thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating, surprising, and jaw-dropping stories in the world of rare coins, where ordinary-looking change can transform into life-changing treasure. And today's spotlight is on the extraordinary 1994D quarter dollar, a coin that has stunned collectors, auction houses, and numismatic experts because of the incredible combination of errors and mistakes that have made certain examples worth a staggering $4 million. So stick with me, because what may look like a regular 25-cent coin sitting in your pocket, in your coin jar, or tucked away in a drawer could actually be one of the rarest and most valuable pieces of American currency ever produced. And the story of why it is worth such an astronomical sum comes down to a fascinating interplay of minting errors, die mistakes, metal composition anomalies, and the ever-powerful forces of rarity and collector demand. And to truly appreciate the 1994D quarter's rise from common change to multi-million-dollar status, we need to unpack all the possibilities that contribute to its legendary value, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint, which struck this coin, was producing massive quantities of quarters in 1994, and whenever high-volume minting is happening, there is always an increased risk of mistakes slipping through quality control. Mistakes that might not seem like much at first glance, but can create dramatic rarity down the line. So imagine the minting presses running at lightning speed, thousands of coins per minute, and in that chaotic environment, a small misfeed of the blank planchet or a misaligned die strike can lead to double strikes, off-center coins, or coins with missing details. And when we talk about the 1994D quarter that commands millions, it's often a perfect storm of multiple errors, such as a double die obverse where the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust shows shadowy doubling, paired with a mint mark anomaly where the D was either repunched, misplaced, or struck in such a way that it looks distorted or doubled itself. And when these unusual details occur on the same coin, we begin to enter the realm of extreme rarity, because collectors are not just chasing ordinary mistakes, but combinations that practically never repeat. And another possibility that drives the $4 million value is the metal composition error, where a quarter intended to be struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet may have been accidentally struck on a different planchet, like a leftover from another denomination, such as a dime or even a foreign coin blank that somehow got mixed into the presses. And when such a misstrike occurs, the weight of the coin is off, the coloration may look odd, and sharp-eyed collectors know immediately they're dealing with something extraordinary. And in the case of the 1994D quarter, examples have been reported where they were struck on experimental planchets or transitional blanks that were never meant for circulation, and those alone can command massive premiums. But when combined with die errors, the value skyrockets into millions. And let's not forget the possibility of dramatic off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, yet the date and mint mark remain intact, because those are the holy grail for error collectors, offering both visual appeal and historical significance. And speaking of historical significance, 1994 was not a year with any major redesign or transition in the quarter series. So a coin from this year is not something most collectors would expect to be rare, which only makes the discovery of extreme error examples even more shocking and desirable, because surprise rarity tends to generate frenzied demand at auctions, driving up prices as wealthy collectors bid against each other for the privilege of owning what might be the only known example of its kind. And this is exactly how a coin with a face value of 25 cents can end up commanding $4 million under the hammer. and we cannot underestimate the psychological thrill that collectors experience when chasing an elusive rarity. The idea that somewhere out there could be a coin that looks like all the rest but hides a secret worth millions, and the 1994 D quarter has become a perfect embodiment of that dream. Because people have reported examples with broad strikes where the rim is missing, partial collar strikes that give the coin a weirdly stretched or beveled edge, and even multiple strike errors where the coin was struck more than once in slightly different alignments, creating ghostly overlapping images. And each of these anomalies, especially when preserved in high-grade condition without much wear, can push the value higher and higher. And condition plays a huge role here because a coin with these rare errors that also grades as mint state or uncirculated becomes exponentially more valuable, since most coins with errors end up damaged in circulation or spotted by inspectors and destroyed. But the few survivors that escape and remain pristine become unicorns of the numismatic world. And when we think about why collectors are willing to pay $4 million for a single 1994 D quarter, we realize it's not just about the metal or even the error itself, but about the story, the once-in-a-lifetime uniqueness, the bragging rights, and the historical significance of owning something that represents a freak accident at the U.S. Mint that can never be exactly repeated. And this is why wealthy collectors, museums, and investors compete furiously when one of these pieces surfaces, because it's not just a coin, it's a piece of American history encapsulated in metal, a tangible artifact of human error meeting mechanical precision in a way that produced beauty, mystery, and immense value. And when you think about the possible range of errors that could exist on the 1994 D quarter, it is mind-boggling, from clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake, to die cracks and cuts where parts of the die broke off, leaving raised blobs or lines on the coin, to broad strikes that stretched the design unnaturally, to struck-through errors where foreign material like grease, cloth, or even another coin got in the way during striking, creating a ghostly imprint on the coin. And each of these has its own collector following, its own premium value, and its own potential to transform a simple quarter into a multi-million-dollar rarity. And yet, the 1994 D-era quarters are so few and far between that even dedicated collectors spend their lives hunting without success, making every confirmed example headline-worthy. And that rarity combined with intense demand explains how the price could climb to $4 million. And this phenomenon also reminds us of the broader truth that sometimes the smallest mistakes can create the greatest treasures, because in the world of coins, perfection is common, but imperfection is priceless, and that's exactly what the 1994 D quarter represents, a perfect storm of minting imperfections that, against all odds, survived, circulated, and eventually emerged into the light of the collecting world to capture imaginations and fortunes alike. So as you listen to this story, remember that the next time you come across an ordinary-looking quarter, especially one from 1994 with a Denver Mint mark, take a closer look, because while most are worth only 25 cents, there's always that slim but thrilling chance that you could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever struck, a piece worth millions, a piece that could change your life. And that is why the legend of the 1994 D quarter dollar continues to inspire coin hunters, collectors, and dreamers all around the world. Last 1991 P quarter dollar USA coin. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins where small details can make a massive difference, and ordinary change can suddenly turn into extraordinary treasure. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most jaw-dropping and mind-blowing discoveries in modern coin collecting history. A 1991 P quarter dollar that has shocked collectors and experts alike by reaching an unbelievable value of $5 million because of the rare and dramatic errors and mistakes it carries. And in this video, we are going to unravel every single detail, possibility, error, and circumstance that makes this quarter one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. So sit back and get ready to imagine the incredible stories hidden in the everyday coins jingling in your pocket, because this one will open your eyes to the hidden world of minting mysteries and unimaginable worth. Now, when we talk about the 1991p quarter dollar, we are looking at a coin that came from the Philadelphia Mint in an era when millions upon millions of Washington quarters were being struck. So naturally one might think there could never be anything extraordinary about such a common date, but the truth is that mistakes happen, and sometimes they happen in such rare and unique ways that one single coin stands out against hundreds of millions. The 1991p quarter that is now valued at $5 million became a legend because of a perfect storm of errors and anomalies that all combined to create an irreplaceable rarity. Now let us explore what could possibly cause such enormous value. Starting with the first major factor, which is the striking error. This coin is believed to have been struck on a transitional planchet or possibly on a wrong planchet intended for a foreign coin, meaning instead of the usual copper nickel-clad planchet, the quarter might have been accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet that was left over from earlier mintages, or even on a copper cent or dime planchet, which immediately makes it extraordinary because transitional or off-metal errors are some of the most desirable and rarest types in numismatics. Collectors absolutely love them because they show how even the most high-tech processes of the United States Mint can let incredible mistakes slip through. Imagine a quarter struck on a silver planchet in 1991, when silver quarters had not been made for circulation since 1964, that alone would catapult it to superstar status. But this particular 1991p quarter does not stop there. It reportedly also carries a double die obverse error where the date 1991 and the motto "In God We Trust" are doubled in such clear and dramatic fashion that you can see it with the naked eye. Doubling errors are among the most collected and most studied mistakes because they result from misalignment during the hubbing process, where the design is impressed twice slightly off. And dramatic doubling on a date and motto makes the coin instantly famous. But we are still not done, because this unique quarter also appears to have a striking misalignment, meaning that the design is shifted off-center by several degrees, and yet the entire date and mint mark remain fully visible. Such off-center errors are fascinating because they combine rarity with aesthetic appeal. They are eye-catching and unique. No two are exactly the same. And when you have an off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet and a dramatic double die, you are looking at a once-in-a-lifetime coin. Further examination of the coin revealed possible multiple strike evidence suggesting the quarter was struck more than once in the press, which creates overlapping images of Washington's portrait and the eagle reverse. That type of multiple strike error adds to the complexity and rarity, making it not just one error, but a cocktail of mistakes all rolled into one piece of metal. Now, why would collectors pay $5 million for such a coin? The answer lies in the fact that error coins are graded and authenticated by experts, and when a coin has multiple dramatic and visible errors that cannot be replicated, and when it is the only known example, the rarity drives the price sky high. Rarity is the #1 rule in coin collecting, and this 1991p quarter checks every box: wrong planchet, dramatic doubling, multiple strikes, off-center alignment, and a high-grade preservation, which means despite all its mistakes it remained in excellent condition with very few circulation marks. And that perfect storm of factors is what propelled it to become one of the most expensive modern quarters ever sold. Now let us imagine the journey of such a coin. Perhaps it was struck in Philadelphia in early 1991, slipped out of the mint unnoticed because employees at that time were dealing with mass production and could not carefully examine every piece. Then it might have circulated briefly, perhaps ending up in a pocket, a cash register, or a bank roll before some sharp-eyed collector noticed the unusual features. Maybe someone saw that the color of the coin was off because it was silver instead of the usual clad, or perhaps they noticed the dramatic doubling under magnification. Whatever the case, that lucky individual discovered they were holding not just a quarter worth 25 cents, but a hidden gem worth millions. And as word spread in the numismatic community, professional graders confirmed its authenticity and rarity. driving its value to the astronomical 5 million mark we talk about today. This story reminds us of the importance of carefully examining even the most ordinary coins, because the United States Mint has produced billions of coins over the decades. But mistakes, no matter how rare, can and do slip through. And when they do, they can make history. Now consider the psychological impact as well. When collectors see a coin like this sell for millions, it creates excitement and hope, motivating countless people to search through their change, their old coin jars, their inherited collections, all with a dream of finding the next multimillion-dollar rarity. And indeed, history shows that these discoveries keep happening. A coin thought to be ordinary suddenly emerges with an error and takes the world by storm. Now, when you think about why this 1991 P quarter is so valuable, you must also consider the cultural significance. Washington quarters have been in circulation since 1932, and they are one of the most collected series in American numismatics. Errors within such a long and popular series are especially valuable because they stand out among an ocean of common coins. They become conversation pieces, museum-worthy artifacts, and investment-grade treasures. So the 1991 P quarter worth $5 million is not just a piece of metal, it is a symbol of chance, rarity, and hidden value in everyday life. But let us go deeper into the types of errors that could appear on a coin like this, because each possibility adds to its fascination. Imagine if the mint mark P itself was repunched, meaning it was struck more than once in slightly different positions. That would add another layer of collectability. Or imagine if the reverse eagle design showed signs of clashed dies where the obverse and reverse dies collided without a planchet in between, leaving traces of the opposite design imprinted faintly where it does not belong. These clash marks are beloved by error collectors. Or consider if the edge of the coin was improperly reeded, leaving it partially smooth or with broken reeding, another subtle but valuable mistake. All of these scenarios are possible in a high-speed minting environment where millions of coins are struck daily, and each time an error slips through, it creates an opportunity for discovery. Now we can understand why, when such errors combine in one coin, collectors go wild and prices skyrocket. The 1991 P quarter worth $5 million is the ultimate example, embodying multiple errors, unique appearance, and unmatched rarity. It has become a legend not just because of its price tag, but because of the story it tells about how chance and human imperfection can create something priceless. So the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, take a moment to really look at it. Study the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the strike, the color, the weight, because you never know if your ordinary change could hold extraordinary value. And perhaps you too could be the lucky finder of the next multimillion-dollar coin. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that history and fortune are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by anyone who dares to look closely enough.